Larkin here, and really excited for you to check out this episode with Keith Pepper. He is a rock star local media owner. He purchased his business during COVID and is absolutely crushing it with a perfect mix of the kind of legacy style monthly newspapers that go out to people's doors via direct mail, while also fully understanding the value of digital, having lots of newsletters, hyper local. This guy is really smart about the space, about really both sides of this space. I love chatting with this guy. I've chatted with him a few times in person. He's just super sharp. So I think you're going to get a lot of value out of this one. Really excited to hear your feedback. Keith's a great guy, and I think he crushed it. So another thing, quick announcement. Local Newsletter OS is now Lightbreak. So I have partnered with Shane Brady, and we are now building Lightbreak to be the ultimate AI first newsletter tool. At least for now, it's going to become much more than that, but that's what it is today. And I'm stoked to show it to you guys. We're launching it as we speak. So feel free to check out the site at lightbreak.ai. Reach out if you have any questions, thoughts. Really excited. We'll talk more about this one in the future. Also, make sure you check out the free Discord. Again, just want to bring a way for listeners, viewers to come connect with me and others. There's a lot of really smart people in there sharing. We're going to do an office hour soon. We've been doing them about every 2 to 3 weeks. There's going to be one next week. So check it out, jump in, and then, on to the show. TJ Larkin here, and I'm excited to have on Keith Pepper. He is the owner of Rough Draft Atlanta, which is a relatively large local media brand in Atlanta, and he's doing some really interesting things, and I'm stoked to have him here. So thanks for being here, Keith.
Yeah, TJ, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't you kind of give everyone a quick overview, because I know you purchased the business, and I think that's kind of most people on here starting. So I think that's interesting, and yeah, just give everyone a quick overview how you got into wanting to purchase a legacy local media brand.
Sure. So I purchased a legacy community print newspaper group in 2020. So it was the height of the pandemic. We just passed our 5-year anniversary of me owning the company. And at the time, the company I bought had 5 monthly print publications. About 99% of the revenue of the company was from print advertising. And it was really a print first, print forward company, both in terms of obviously revenue, as I mentioned, but also just in terms of how they distributed content, how they engaged with the audience. So in the past 5 years, we've really flipped that on its head. Although we still are majority print revenue, over 70% of our revenue comes from print still. We're really a digital first media company, meaning that all of our content is first put on our website, on social media, then is distributed through newsletters on a daily basis, both a morning, 6 days a week morning newsletter, and then afternoon, weekly vertical newsletters, which I'm sure we'll talk about as we go on. And then we've actually expanded our print business over the last 5 years, but the print revenue it's been relatively flat, but it hasn't gone down. So we've gone up some years, we've gone down some years slightly. Overall, we're up. We just had our biggest print year, since I've been involved. But the overall revenue has grown significantly. And the shift to digital, both web digital display ads, sponsored content, as well as newsletters, has been like hockey stick growth. So
Wow.
now as I mentioned, we're a little bit over 70% print revenue now, and the rest is digital. And then we have a very nascent membership program or reader revenue program. So that's a little bit over 1% of our total revenue.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, no, that's really impressive. So, the way, just so everybody knows, I've met Keith before and talked to him, and he's doing obviously a killer job, as you can tell from some of the things he's saying. But I think he's one of the few guys in legacy local media who gets the digital side, what most people watching this probably understand that most legacy people don't. I think that's really interesting, and it's what makes it so unique is you totally get this, yet like you said, your revenue is still 70% print. How do you think about that? Why is that? People like me think, every digital is so much better for businesses, but why do they love print so much? And then maybe, why do you think that is now? And then how do you see that changing in the future? Do you see print shrinking at all, or how do you see the future of print versus digital?
Well, first, so I just want to say, I think the future is definitely digital. And I think that there really, I've written about this in LinkedIn and other places, that there really is no future for daily print media. So you're seeing, I mean, Atlanta is the first big city where the daily, the major daily paper no longer prints. And I think that will be the trend because it just doesn't make sense from a business model to have a daily print product. But I do think that there's a very bright future for weekly, maybe fortnightly or certainly monthly print products. But
Yeah.
it's all in the distribution. So the secret sauce for us is that we distribute our print products, which are monthly papers. We deliver them through the mail. So they're getting into people's mailboxes. They're coming into the home. They're engaging. They're more like a magazine. So even though we say we're a newspaper company, I say I own newspapers. People consider us a newspaper. We really are more like a magazine. And at the end of the day, when you're talking about advertising and where we fit in the advertising mix, we're really like a direct mail product because of how we're distributing our print products. And there are just fewer options for print advertisers these days. I still think that there's a little bit of nostalgia. So I compare it, kind of to vinyl records. I mean, you live in Austin. I'm sure a lot of your friends have turntables. When you walk in my home, one of the first things you'll see is my turntable and my record collection. But I don't consume my daily music on vinyl,
Yeah.
right? I open my phone, I turn on Spotify, and I'm streaming because it's just so much easier.
Mhm.
But every once in a while, I'll have a lean back experience and I'll go over and I'll select a record and we'll consume music in that way. And I think that print's very similar. I think that, there isn't the model for daily print, but there is still a great model both on the audience side, but also on the advertiser side for a print product. But you've got to get it into people's houses. The model where people go out and pick it up at a coffee shop or a dry cleaner, that part of the business is shrinking. So it's really about the distribution. And then also it's in terms of how you're producing that print product. I mean, we aim for 60%, but certainly over 50% of our pages in our print product are ads. And that's okay because people are consuming the content in our newsletters, on our website, through social media. And when they get the print product, they're looking at it and they're engaging with local businesses through their advertising. They're reading some of the content. All of the content has been on our website first. So if they're daily readers of our newsletter or they're looking at our website on a regular basis, they've seen those articles, or at least they've seen the headlines, but they may not have dug into it. They may not have read it. And so that we're giving them another chance to sort of lean back and take in that content.
Yeah, no, I think that makes so much sense. We've talked about it on the show before, but community impact. So, Community Impact's a Texas-based brand that I know they're growing. He just announced opening new territories in Texas, and your model is very similar to theirs, right? For
Our
anybody,
models are identical. Just
yeah,
everything is bigger in Texas. So
yeah,
John has just done an incredible job of scaling and growing. And so we all could learn a lot from how they have built that business. But if you look at the website, it's one landing page, and then you choose the community that you want to read from. And so he's done a great job, and I'm still learning a lot about his business, of scaling, but controlling the variables. So every paper, and we do the same. So every paper in the markets we're in looks the same. It's all the same format. It's all the same ad sizes, but we have one digital presence. We have one rough draft brand for the metro area. And so, being the source of local news for people, that's something that people are tired of news. News fatigue is real, right? The news is exhausting. It's 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 divisive in a lot of ways, a lot of the time. And so there's still a huge appetite for knowing what's happening in your local community. And so Community Impact in Texas has done an incredible job And so I think we all can learn from that. But yes, I mean, to answer your question, our business models are almost identical. They're playing in a much larger state than we are.
Yeah. So, but one of the keys that I think for people to understand, especially on the print side, you kind of mentioned it, but just to hit it hard for people who don't realize is what you and John are doing is you are sending your papers monthly to, like, people aren't requesting it. You're just sending it, right? Like when you mentioned the direct mail thing, that's the idea, right? Is like,
Yeah.
and
So yeah, we saturate exactly. So
yeah.
some called saturation and direct mail. So we purchase mailing routes and we deliver the paper whether you want it or not
Mm-hmm.
into homes in those routes. So we're
Yeah.
able to choose our audience, and that worked great for advertisers because we've started out in very affluent, very engaged, very influential communities in Atlanta. And so from an advertiser perspective, that helps because it's a coveted audience
Mm-hmm.
for them. And so we're getting into their homes, in ways that digital ads, and I'm a huge proponent of digital ads, our digital advertising is growing significantly year over year. But there's something different about how you engage with a print product versus how you engage with digital advertising.
It's just different. Yeah, exactly. So where like your traditional, Atlanta Journal Constitution, whatever, they would charge you to have it delivered, right? And that's just like, this is a completely different model than that. I just think it's important for people to realize the difference there. So tell me about the newsletter side of things. So, I was looking at your site yesterday and how so you said you have your main newsletter. Does that go out to like all of Atlanta, like everyone? And then obviously you have the sub niches, which are location based, but also, I don't know, category based. So how does all this work? I mean, even, for the consumer, but then also on the infrastructure side, it seems like a lot.
Yeah, well, it's oddly easy on the infrastructure side, although my
Okay.
team my
Yeah.
team may be screaming, disagreeing, the team that produces it. But so the way that I think about it is we have a morning newsletter that goes out 6 mornings a week, Monday through Saturday, and that is a general interest newsletter. It is meant to be the new morning paper. So just like you would read a general interest newspaper or newsletter, that is what our morning is. It's got a little bit of local news. It's got a little bit of national news. It's got a little bit of international news. So it's what we think you need to know if you have, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes to start your day. The model, I first got the model from what was then the Charlotte Agenda, which soon became Axios Local. They got the model from Morning Brew, who got the model from Daily Candy. So everyone's iterating on the same type of model. But that's a newsletter that is, yes, it is regional. It is something that if you don't live in our print communities, you would still get value from our morning newsletter. And then in the afternoons, we go into, what I call vertical newsletters. So we've got one and these are weekly for the most part. So we've got one for seniors on Tuesday. We have art on Wednesday. We have an LGBTQ one on Wednesday. We have one for the Jewish community. We have one for film. We have twice a week. We do dining because that's such a big coverage area for us. And then we also do weekly vertical or geographic newsletters. So those are for the different neighborhoods that we also cover in print, but we do an email newsletter for them as well. So yeah, there's a lot of newsletters that go out. Again, in the scaling area, all of them have the same format, all of them have the same ad sizes, so we don't have to redo a lot. And so it's we've got a formula that works. It's certainly we could make it much easier on ourselves and do more tech driven RSS, dare I say AI driven types of newsletters, and those products are certainly out there, and there's more of them popping up on a regular basis. But to me, it's something that it's worth it for us to curate it each day. And so it's the team's main responsibility during the day is to prepare the newsletter for the next morning. So in newspaper speak, it is the new morning paper. So that newsletter is as up to date as it can be before it goes out every morning at 7 a.m. I think of it as like, one of my first jobs was producing a morning show on on a local radio station. And so to me, it's like a morning show for your inbox. That is,
Mhm.
you're getting into the most intimate place that people are in the mornings. I mean, the first thing, people use their phone as their alarm clock. The first thing they do is they look at their emails, whether we like to admit it or not. And so we're trying to get into that inbox. And a lot of people are doing it. I mean, there's morning newsletters all over there's national ones, there's global ones, there's local ones, there's hyper local ones. And so we're just trying to be, consistent, reliable, so that we are getting that attention span when people wake up in the morning.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Um, no, that makes a ton of sense. All right, so let's talk about what I think people always want to hear about the most, which is ad sales. So it sounds like you're, again, doing really well, probably one of the best at this compared to most people who this is the difficult part of this model, right? So you want to just give us some high level thoughts on ad sales strategies, and maybe like, again, where I kind of still personally struggle a little bit is how businesses are choosing print over digital, or how does that even conversation go? I guess maybe just give us the high level view of how you guys do ad sales.
Well, first of all, thank you. I mean, we could always do better. There's always
Yeah.
room to improve on ad sales, but we've got, number one is you've got to have a person or a team that is a professional salesperson that is dedicated to this discipline. So it's got to be someone's job every day. And we have a team of people, and we've got a team of incredible people that have a deep background in media sales. And all of them have deep backgrounds in print media sales, believe it or not. And so we always lead. For us as a business, the most important thing we can do is sell full page ads, because
Mm.
those are it's the highest dollar amount for us. It's the easiest to produce, believe it or not, right? So if someone is purchasing a full page ad, they're generally going to have their own designer. They're going to have their own. They're going to deliver us a camera ready ad. So we start there, and so we would love to sell full page ads in annual contracts. That's the goal, and it's tremendous value for the advertisers as well. We see that in our renewal rate and just the feedback. And we really start. We really don't have a great solution for small businesses. We really target,
Mm.
people that have the way we describe it is they have a low transaction volume and a high transaction value, meaning they do very few deals a year, but those deals that they do are big ticket items. And so that means real estate brokers, real estate agents, specialty medical, financial services, legal. So people that, if a real estate agent gets one client from their ad a year, the lifetime value of that client, significant ROI for them on the spend in advertising. So another way to describe it is top of funnel. We're a brand awareness top of funnel, vehicle for people. We don't have a great solution for bars and restaurants, for example. So traditionally, in papers like ours, you would see it just littered with bars and restaurants ads. We don't have that, because those guys have all moved to the internet, to social media, to Google search, and Facebook, for example. So we really target. I mean, what's helped us is we've just gone after bigger folks, and that took a minute for me to realize, and it took a couple of minutes for me to get the team on board with that we don't just look in our backyard at small retailers for ads. We're really trying to go bigger. So I'd rather have a small part of a massive ad budget than 100% of someone's tiny ad budget. So that's how we think about it.
Yeah, no,
But the discipline, having a team that wakes up every day and their job is sales, and then putting structure and reporting and metrics around that is the only way that you're going to be successful. So it has to be someone's job, and then they're doing that every day, and you're measuring the results, and then compensating in that way. So if in any organization that gets to a certain size, like the highest paid person should be a salesperson at that company. So now that model doesn't work for smaller people, right? And there are also ways And we're experimenting with these ways as well, in newsletters in particular, certainly on digital ads, and this even exists for print, is how can you automate sales? How can you get that programmatic revenue? How can you get the, get the self-serve ads going in? But to do that, I think you really have to have scale. So we don't run any programmatic ads on our website because I don't think it's a great user experience, number one. I don't think the ads look, it isn't what I want. And we don't have enough scale that we would make any money. So, that's the riddle for a lot of small publishers is, okay, I can just turn on a switch in Google AdSense and I can get some ads, or in, what's the newsletter one called? I'm blanking. Where that serves newsletter ads programmatically, but I can turn that on and I can fill my newsletter with ads, but they're just going to be pennies to me. And they're what?
Bad user experience.
It's not a great user experience, right? I mean, and it's not a great, if you have other advertisers that are direct, it's not a great brand experience because you could be next to who knows what. I mean, there's some pretty sus ads on the in those platforms. So we sell only direct. We control who we sell to, and we're out doing it every day. It's a discipline that we have on the team, and so in print helps us. It gives us the oxygen to be able to experiment with newsletters. The other thing I would say, this could be controversial, I don't know, but I don't like to. We don't run a ton of house ads, meaning ads for our house ads, so ads for ourselves. So if we have unsold inventory, I would rather bonus, or we allocate 10% of our revenue to nonprofits so that we can sponsor nonprofits locally. So we want it to look, you want your newsletter to be a place that other advertisers covet to be in there. And so that's something that, I don't know, unsolicited advice I would give to folks is dial back the house ads and either bonus your good advertisers in different ways, or go to nonprofits and sponsor them and give them ad space. I just think it looks better for the supply and demand equation for people wanting to be in your paper or your newsletter.
Totally agree, 100%. All right, just on this, I'm curious if you have any advice. If not, don't worry. But I basically agree with you in general, of course, that having a full-time salesperson makes total sense. It's kind of obvious, not just in media, right, in anything. But for those people watching this, and including me, who maybe can't afford a full-time salesperson, or, well, I guess it depends on if there's structures that you could do. But what would you do if all you had was a newsletter? The people that that are probably watching this, they've got a newsletter, maybe they got it to 10,000 subs. They can put some effort in. It's not like they're refusing to put any effort in, but they can't sell full time, and they don't have money to pay any kind of salary. They'd probably pay commission, but they even higher commission, but they wouldn't pay salary. What would you do? What would you recommend to those people?
I would say go out to some leaders in your community, whether it's community foundations, civic organizations, and even if you have to give away a couple of ads.
Well, I'm sure they would.
Yeah. To get good brands in there. So think whatever fits your identity. For us, right, we're serving an upscale audience. We want brand. We want other advertisers in the paper and our newsletters that reflect our audience. I would, again, this may be controversial, but I would bonus or give away, ads so it looks like you're selling. So people want to be in there. People aren't going to want to be in there if it's programmatic, bottom of the barrel programmatic stuff. It just doesn't make it seem like a coveted place.
I think what most people are doing is they're just not putting, if they don't sell any, they're just not really putting any in. And so I think what you're saying, which makes sense, is go find bigger businesses and offer it for free, because then it will make their competitors or other bigger players see it and say, hey, if they're in there, we want to be in there, to give you a much better shot. I mean, what you're talking about is what Sam Parr talks about, what he did with The Hustle, right? He faked an ad with Ford, to get other dealer, and I mean, I guess,
Yeah, I haven't heard that. I haven't heard that interview. But I would do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay. No, that's good advice for sure. Again, I think the basics of what you're saying though is have been saying this, and of course I don't follow my own suggestion, but is go out and meet people in the community. Go talk about it. Go put yourself out there. Offer to help people, and that's the way to do it. I think the way to at least get started. And
Yeah, I mean, sponsored content is great. So
yeah.
again, like you label it, be clear what it is. But that's something, that you can do. I mean, people may not even know about sponsored content in your community. So, educate them on what that is,
Mm-hmm.
and then, get some revenue that way, from folks.
Well, that was my next question actually right here. I know you had told me something interesting about what you do well when we met at the conference, but can you talk about that, like sponsored content plus maybe, I don't know if this is the same thing, but like backlinks? How do you guys do that? How does that work? How do you sell that? And what is the process?
Well, I mean, we sell sponsored content directly to, brands and companies in our community. So we're going out just like we would sell a full page ad, in that package, we sell sponsored articles. And so you can see those on our homepage. They're narrative. I mean, people call them advertorial,
Mm-hmm.
sponsored content, promoted content, whatever. They're clearly labeled. Sometimes we write them, or we hire a freelancer to write them for the client. Sometimes the client writes it themselves through an agency, or they just have content that they want to get out there. And for us, those have been a great revenue stream. I think what you're talking about is sort of a longer tail of SEO players that
Yep.
want to post articles. I mean, there's some of that. It's not something that you're going to be able to build, or that you would want to build a business on. It's
It
kind
takes a
of
long
like,
time, right?
well, it's very transactional. It comes and goes.
Mm-hmm.
There's a certain risk to it, and how your site is designed. So I think it takes a while to build up to that, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not something that you're going to build on, or build a whole business on. I mean, those days, I think are probably over. But and you're also at the mercy of search engines, which has become, the field of play has changed in that regard.
Yep.
So I think you're better off building your sponsored content, your promoted content around local companies, that are in your community. You can see that a lot of small sites in the Village Media Network do a great job of that. So
Okay.
Village Media is a Canadian company that is a web platform for small publishers, and they'll go out and they'll sell, whole sections of like community engagement, stories to local businesses, and it gives them a great way to get their brand out there and their story out there.
Okay. Nice. Yeah. Is that something you think, especially the smaller people, maybe more newsletter focused, would be a smart play for them, is to talk about sponsor? Like, I guess, how do you think about selling sponsored content versus selling ads and like the positioning there when doing sales? Like, would that almost be an easier play, you think, for people to sell sponsored content?
It's another product on our menu.
Another product.
So
Okay.
yeah, so I mean, we have, we have people that buy everything. So, when I talk about, and I have a short video on our website, that you can see of how we think about digital advertising. But if our digital advertising offering is three things. It's digital display ads, which are pretty basic. And those are, we have 4 different sizes. They run across mobile and desktop. We sell them at a monthly flat fee. We don't sell on a CPM basis. So, that's the only way you can get on our site. We're not in the programmatic exchange. You can't buy our audience through, any other channel than directly with us. Some people don't like banner ads. So if that's not for you, then we offer sponsored content, which is, again, advertorial. And you can see it's a narrative way for people to get their content out. It performs really well in search. We never take it down. It's always on our site, unless someone asks us to, which I don't think has ever happened. And it goes out to all the syndication platforms that we're in, Google News, all the Newsbreak, et cetera. So you're getting your story out there that way. And then if you look on our site, like your story is up there with there's no other ads. So you've got 100% share of voice when you're on our site. So, and then the third thing is newsletter ads. And the newsletter ads are either they're either text ads, so we sell 40-word text ads, or we sell sponsored posts, so basically an excerpt of a sponsored story.
Okay. Oh, nice. Okay, so it's just taking an excerpt of what you already put on their site. It's not like you don't do anything custom specifically for the newsletter.
It's a mix of both. If someone's not running a bigger story on our site, then we would create a custom,
Okay.
excerpt, or they would write it. It's like 90 words max. So
Okay.
it's very similar to what you'd see in Morning Brew
Yep.
or in Axios, or in any of the newsletters. It's a native, part of the feed, but it's clearly labeled. We put a gray box around it, so it's differentiated.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, that makes sense. Tell me about, like, how do you see the future of your business? Are you trying to scale it? Like, what's your vision for growth?
Yeah. So I'm an accidental entrepreneur. So I think when you and I met, you could, it's, you can tell you meet you and you've started businesses and you're out there. For me, I stumbled into this. I've never wanted to own my own business. I'd never had, gone out and said, let me go raise money and do something. So for me, it's been an incredible, experience. I love what I'm doing. I feel very lucky that I get to do this on a daily basis
Hmm.
for most of the day, every day, because it's a lot of work. So, we've scaled. The way that we look at scaling is we've grown two ways. There's geographic scale, and then there's in vertical, so subject areas. So we've grown into one other geographic market in the past 5 years, and we're about to launch our second new market next month. So, and those are just neighborhoods or cities really that are contiguous to our other cities. And so we're scaling, but in a way that doesn't require getting on a plane or driving, more than 10 or 15 minutes. So that's the strategy. And then we're adding coverage areas. So we've really beefed up our coverage of food and dining. We were lucky to hire the former editor of Eater Atlanta, which is a national media company. We got her to come over to us, so our food coverage is really the best in town. And then we've added more reporters there, and we've launched other vertical newsletters. So, like I mentioned, art. We have someone that covers film, which isn't really, there's not really another full-time film critic in Atlanta media. So we're doing that, and that's been a great area for audience growth. So that's how I look at it: is slowly growing. Everything's got to have a view to profitability very quickly. We're not owned by a big company. This is all bootstrapped by me, and we're funding. As we grow, we're funding it through existing revenue. So
Yeah. Okay. No, that's awesome. I had this question earlier, and you just brought it up again. For these sub brands like film and seniors and whatnot, how are people finding those? Is it like, are you just talking about them in the newsletter and on the website, and that's basically it?
yeah,
Or
we
do
just
they go
cross promote.
just
Yeah,
drop
we
one?
just we just cross promote through our newsletter. I mean, we're toying with some meta ads, which seem to be the best for growing newsletters. But we just cross promote.
Okay.
So a lot of the content, we hear, or we use the content in multiple places. So if we write an art story, that will appear in the art newsletter for sure, but it will also appear in print, and it will also appear in
Mhm.
our morning newsletter.
Yep.
And obviously everything goes to one website. So
Mhm.
so we cross promote things, and sometimes we hear from people that I read this story in your art newsletter. I don't want to read it in the morning newsletter, but very few people unfortunately read everything. And so it's the example I give is, if you subscribe to the Sunday New York Times, by the time that paper comes to your house on Sunday, if you're a regular reader of the New York Times app or website, you've probably read everything that's in that paper, right? There's not any breaking news or
Mhm.
any so, but you may have seen the headline and skimmed it, and you want to dig into it in print. And it's
Mhm.
the same way with our newsletters. So you may have seen a headline in our morning newsletter, but when the afternoon art one comes, you might dig into that a little bit more. So we
Yeah.
just cross promote through our website, through newsletters, on social, and some very little ad spend.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. What do you think, you're perfect person to ask this since you're, well, probably the only one I know who's actually done this. What do you think about the potential of people acquiring legacy local media brands? So, the way I think about the space right now is there's a lot of excitement around like the newsletter side and the kind of social media angle, creator angle. That's what I talk about a lot. Then there's you and John are like the hybrids who are kind of succeeding at both. But then there's a ton of the legacy players that have old WordPress site that stinks. They really don't have a newsletter or it's terrible. And maybe they had print, but they probably got rid of it. As somebody who's acquired a legacy brand, although I assume it was much better than most at the time, do you think that could be a smart play for people, maybe especially these newsletter people or somebody wanting to dig in more? Would you recommend that? How do you think about it?
Well, I mean, I would recommend it because I'm having a great time, and it's been, so far it's been successful. I think that a VC or a private equity person would probably have a different
Yeah.
opinion of it. I think I think it just all depends on what your expectations are. So whether you're looking for, a great lifestyle business, or you're looking to scale, something that you're gonna flip to an investor or to a larger company. I just think you have to have an expectation of what it's going to be. And it depends on the market. I mean, we're lucky to be in a relatively large market,
Mhm.
so we can grow. I see a path to continue growing, but I want to do it very deliberately, and probably relatively slowly. We've acquired, so we've expanded to 2 new markets, and we made one acquisition last year, at the end of 2024, which was we bought the regional LGBTQ paper. So they were not in growth mode, and they were looking for a buyer. And for us, we already had a large audience in the community, and it seemed to make it made to me it was an easy decision to give them a safe landing. And also we were able to put them into our web platform, to move into our print process. So we were able to take a lot of cost out of the business, and it made sense from a financial perspective. So that kind of us building this platform that we can then bolt on other acquisitions like that is certainly, I see that as a way to do it, but we're not in a massive hurry to do that. I think the market, the industry is changing so fast, and it's head spinning what's happening. And you see some great success stories, and then you see obviously you see a lot of legacy print, not making it. And then you see, both sides of the digital publishing equation, right? You see things like the free press getting bought for a lot of money. You see Semaphore with a relatively huge valuation, but there's no guarantee. Those have global audiences, both of those. So on a local perspective, it's significantly harder to scale, but it's incredibly fun. If you want to be engaged in your community, I think it helps that there's a good story attached to my to what we're doing here, meaning that I grew up here, I left, I came back. I'm very engaged in the community. For me, this is an incredible job, perfect job for me, because I was at 2 events this morning before 9:30. So it keeps you busy. But I love it. So it just, it depends what your risk profile it is. It depends what your investment capabilities are. But yeah, sure. I think it's amazing. And I'm happy to talk through, we've got a good model. I think we've got the right, we know we know the way to model out, how this works. So, I'm certainly happy to talk, but I'm also always learning, right? I'm always looking at other businesses, what they're doing, trying to figure out what's working, and experimenting. Like we've launched a sports newsletter that didn't, that wasn't a huge success. There wasn't a huge market for that. So, but we can do that, and we can scale back. So it's we're lucky.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Have you thought about? I mean, again, it seems like you and John, excuse me, have have figured out a lot of this stuff, have you thought about scaling, like in your case, beyond Atlanta at all? Like, is that something you've ever considered, or like working with somebody to kind of duplicate your model somewhere else? Has that ever come up? Have you ever considered that, or are you just solely
I mean,
focused?
it comes up. We get asked the question a lot, and
Okay.
you could probably figure out that I've registered our name in a bunch of different places, but it's, right now, the fact that I can be here in my home office and then be in every one of our communities to meet with the mayor, the city council, or local businesses within 20 minutes is, that's key to me. Like if I had to, get on a plane and fly somewhere or get in the car and drive for a few hours, it just changes the whole dynamic, right? So I'm not sure yet where, how that works. So it's something that yeah, sure. I mean, it's in the back of my mind, but it's
Back of
not
the
something
mind,
that's
but not,
imminent.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
exactly what I kind of expected, which makes a ton of
yeah,
sense. No, that's awesome.
yeah.
Well,
And I
Keith,
think you can see that. I mean, you can see in other media companies, other digital media companies that have scaled nationwide. I think that they would probably tell you this, like it's harder to manage someone that's halfway across the country or all the way across the country than it is to manage someone that's 10 minutes away.
of course, 100%. Yeah. I mean, I know sometimes I get caught up in that, like, oh, why don't you just duplicate your model? Go find somebody to manage it and you're good to go. Obviously, it's a lot more complicated than that. But it's still potential in the right scenario. So it makes sense to kind of be open to it without pushing super hard for it. So yeah, totally respect that. Absolutely. Well, Keith, this has been awesome, man. Really appreciate you coming on. Is there anything you want to leave people with if they want to find you, or anywhere they can check you out?
Yeah, I mean, check us out on at roughdraft.news is a URL that you can visit our site, subscribe to our newsletters, and I'm happy to connect with anybody on LinkedIn, and I love having these conversations. So I appreciate you having me, and
Of course.
look forward to continuing our conversations.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Keith.
Yeah, thank you, TJ.
See you.